So you just got a new humidor, maybe you got it for yourself, maybe someone got it for you, and you want to make sure that you season it correctly so you keep your investment of cigars properly humidified in the right temperature so they don't go bad and so that they last you a long time. So if you are curious about how to properly season your humidor, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Ellery Wells from CigarScore, the best place to find and rate where to smoke. And today we're talking about how to season your humidor. First, you're going to need your new humidor. Second, you're going to need some distilled water, not filtered water, not organic or spring water. What you want is distilled water. All the minerals have been removed. Everything else is the most pure water, and it's the best type of water that you will want to use for your humidor. Any other types of water, while they may taste good, can often impart some of their tastes or their flavor profiles onto your cigars, and you do not want that. So make sure you get distilled water. It's like 79 cents, 99 cents, depending on where you are. It's not terribly expensive, and you can get a whole gallon for that. And the next thing you're going to need is either a rag or a paper towel. Oh, and you'll want a cup to put that in as well. So let me grab all of those other materials. It'll give you a chance to grab them as well, and we'll be right back. Okay, for demonstration purposes, I just grabbed a roll of paper towels. If you use paper towels, they're not the best because, you know, you can get, like when you rub paper towels, you can kind of get that paper fuzz left behind. That's why fabric is a little bit better for you to use for this, because sometimes, even though your humidor is smooth, the cedar on the inside can be rough enough to tear up the paper, and when you use cloth, it doesn't really tear and it doesn't leave any residue behind. However, I have found that if you use cloth, sometimes if there are any dyes or there are any dirt or any, I think it's actually a little bit in the cedar itself, sometimes the cloth can absorb some of that coloring off of the wood, even though it hasn't been treated or whatever, and I haven't ruined the clothes, but they have come and turned out a little bit pinkish red. Actually, it's an earthy tone. It looks like clay, but if you use a cloth, while it might be better for your actual humidor and then it won't leave residue behind, it can sometimes ruin the cloth that you're using. But what we're going to do is paper towel, and I'm going to show you a way that you can minimize the residue that is left behind. So you've got your humidor, you've got your water, and you've got your paper towels. So I don't have an empty humidor, but I still wanted to teach you how to season yours. I went through this process actually just a few weeks ago. It had been a while since I had treated mine. I noticed that the humidity levels were in the low 60%, and I don't really like my cigars that dry. You might, so it's up to you. But if you have a humidor, you want to treat it, or you have a new humidor, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take all of my cigars out. And this is the process that I went through just the other day. Maybe I won't take all of them out because I have quite a few in here. Probably have 100 or something. But I'm gonna set them out right there. What you wanna do is take some of the paper towel, and if you don't have a cloth, this is what you would wanna do. So you can either pour the distilled water into a bowl or something, or you can do what I'm going to do here, and that is simply just dab it like this. And what you want to do here is go around the edges of the humidor and just dab the water onto all of the edges, all of the cedar surfaces of your humidor. So I did that for all of my trays. What we're going to do here for demonstration purposes is we're going to take this box of Perdomos. Now this box is what the cigars were shipped in, and for the purposes of this guide, it will work the same way. So what you want to do is take this stamp here and then go around all of the edges of your humidor. Now, if you need a little bit more water, make sure you don't pour it directly onto the surface. You do not want to do that, but we're gonna go and we're gonna try to get in all of the nooks and crannies of your new humidor. The reason why we're dabbing that is if you were going to rub a cloth, if you wanted to do that, you want to make sure that you're going with the grain. When you do that, it will minimize the likelihood that you're going to get any residue left behind inside of your humidor. So always go with the grain if you're going to do that. Since we're using a paper towel, we're going to dab it though. You don't want to pour directly onto your cedar because you will soak one spot way more than the rest of it. And you really want about as an even of a coating as you possibly can get. Okay, now once you have covered all of the inside of your humidor, you might be able to see right here, it's just a little bit of color. The paper towel isn't pure white anymore. So you might notice that on your rag. It's the same thing that I was talking about before, where just some of that might come off on the cloth. But you just saw me do it on the inside of this box. I would have done the exact same thing on my humidor. Here I do all of the shelves. I don't do any of, in this particular humidor, I don't do any of the surfaces that a cigar would directly touch, especially if I'm going to put the cigars back in it. So if you have a humidor that you're currently actively using, your process might be slightly different than if you were doing a new humidor. I'm going to put these cigars back, and then we're going to get something that's actually pretty important to this process. Okay, so here's the box that I just wiped down, and I just noticed that here on the bottom, some of that water had actually seeped through. So this is a really thin piece of wood here. I don't even know if these ship in cedar or not, but just be aware of that. If you've got a really thin bottom on these, it doesn't even seem all that thin, that you don't want to use too much water, because but here's the last and final step. What you want to do is you want to also get something like this. Now this has little beads that you can put either propylene glycol in or distilled water. And if you remember earlier, I always use and recommend using distilled water. You can pour the water directly into this, and these little balls, you can kind of hear them rolling around there. They have been dehydrated. And then the little gel balls will soak up that distilled water and then release it over time. You would want to fill this up with distilled water. After you've wiped down your humidor, you would want to put this in there. And then here's the key. You want to put this in there, and then you want to seal it for 24 hours. You want to keep it as close to airtight as possible, because it's going to do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to let all of the moisture that you have put in there to get into every nook and cranny of your humidor. It will actually, when it's humidified, it will hold a better seal than it does when it's dry, because the wood will slightly expand these edges, these hinges and everything. All of these points where the lid comes down will actually provide you a better seal than when your humidor arrives, because it most likely will not be seasoned when it's arrived. Or like mine, if your humidity has dropped, you might notice that the door comes open a little bit easier, and you want to make sure that the wood has enough moisture to create that seal and make it tighter. By the way, little bonus tip, if you see here on the side of mine, I've got a lock. I always lock mine. It's not for security. I'm not worried about anyone breaking into my house and stealing my cigars. But whenever I know that that latch is closed, I know that the door is closed and it's sealed and it's fairly airtight in there. So after you have wiped down the inside of your humidor, after you have left it for 24 hours, it would then be time to put your cigars inside. As you'll notice, that seal there is a little bit tighter than it was just a few minutes ago, and that's just because all of the moisture has gotten into all of the wood. All of where I've wiped it down, all those areas have kind of dissipated, and the moisture has spread around. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure you want to close it. The second thing that you want to do is make sure you leave it for about 24 hours. Now, before you completely walk off, we need to measure the amount of humidity that's inside. So you could have used too much water, you could have used not enough distilled water, and we don't really know how much humidity is actually in this thing. So there are a few ways that you can measure the humidity inside of your humidor. One of the things that usually they come with your humidor is this thing right here. It's called a hygrometer, and it measures humidity in the air. I have personally not had a whole lot of luck. Usually the ones that come with humidors are kind of cheap. They don't do a really great job of accuracy. I mean, this one says 50%. I think it's just stuck there. What I would actually suggest, and I was kind of hesitant to do this at first, but I got one of these as part of a cigar membership. I got this right here, and it is called the Boveda Butler. And I think they're about $20. I'll put a link to where you can grab one of these for yourself. But I think this is a pretty good investment because it does a couple of things. It does a really good job of monitoring humidity levels, but it will also tell you the temperature inside of your humidor. You want about a 70% humidity and about a 70-degree temperature. You'll have to convert that to Celsius because I don't know off the top of my head, but you want about 70 and 70, and this will tell you both. One thing that's nice about this is it has Bluetooth on it, so you pull up the app on your phone. It is called just Boveda, and what it does, it will load up here, and once the app loads here, you can put your humidors on here. You'll notice that is my humidor, and you can put about how many cigars are in there. As you can see here, it says 71% humidity, which I think is a little high. I would probably prefer it around 67 or 68. You tap this button right here and it switches over to the temperature 74. It's a little bit warm, but we're trying to stay warm in the apartment here, so we've got it actually turned up a little bit. But what is also nice is you can pull up this history and it will tell you your humidity, your temperature over time, and you can select that right down here, and it keeps track of all of that, and you can see what might have caused it if you were moving. And here's another nice little feature as well. If you're worried about your humidor, like you're traveling or something and you've got one of those butlers in there, you can, well, first off, you can set temperature alerts, you can set humidity alerts, you can set it to where the battery will let you know if it's going dead and you need to replace it. But you can also turn on this impact alert, and it will let you know if somebody's messing with your humidifier. Sometimes the software is a little bit buggy, but it does do a good job of keeping track. I'll have to deal with that later. It does do a good job though of keeping track of your humidity percentage and your temperature. The reason why I would suggest these is it's pretty accurate. It comes with the calibration set. It has a Ziploc bag. It has a 75% packet, and you put your new butler in there for 24 hours, 36 hours, something like that, whatever the instructions say, and it should read a consistent amount that is on that packet. So while these that come with the humidors are kind of cheap and they're not necessarily accurate, you can calibrate this guy, and again, I think they're $20 or $30. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it will tell you pretty freaking accurate and allow you to track it if you like tracking stuff like I do, but it will give you really accurate readings. So what I would do, you've just seasoned your humidor, I would actually pop this guy or some other type of hygrometer in there to seal it for that 24-hour period. And if it comes back where you are high, a little bit on the high side, if you're maybe up to like 72% humidity, that will likely go down once you start putting cigars in there. I've been doing this a long time, and I only just recently got the Boveda Butler, but what I have developed over time is just kind of a sense, a touch, a feel. I smoke one and I can tell you if the humidity is too high or too low. I've kind of gotten a sense for what the humidity levels are in my humidor. But if your humidity is too high, put in a box of cigars, about 20 to 25-ish. Your humidity will likely go down 1, 2, 3%. I don't know the exact math. You will want to track and keep up with that so that you know bigger cigars may pull more humidity. Smaller cigars might pull less, but there might be more cigars in a box if they're smaller. So this box, as an example, came with I think 25 in it, 24 cigars in this box. So it pulled a lot of humidity. But if you're reading a little bit high, not too high, but if you're reading maybe 71, 72, maybe a 73%, put your cigars in there. It won't hurt them. You don't want to keep it there for like ever because you might get mold, but put the cigars in there and it will drop the humidity. If it's too low, you might like your cigars a little bit on the drier side. They may burn different, they will burn different, and you might like that. But if you're less than, say, like 66, you may want to wipe it down a little bit more thorough. If you realize that you missed some spots or something like that, you might want to check out this, add it or remove it. These are going to be pretty good at keeping you at the 70% humidity level. However, these come in different sizes. Humidors come in different sizes. Like if you put 5 of these in a humidor this size, you're gonna be too high. If you put 5 of them in here, you would probably be too high. But if you had 3 of these, that might be just right. On the inside of my door here, I've got one of these larger ones also in there. So whenever I was noticing my humidity was a little bit too high, I had that larger one, and I had this one in there, so I just took it out and it dropped the humidity down by a percent overnight. Literally from the time I went to bed to the time I checked my Boveda Butler in the morning, the humidity had gone down 1%. But you want to check it. Everything in the realm of cigars is a science, but it's also an art. So we have the science, the 70% humidity, 70% or 70 degree temperatures, but we also have an art, and your personal preferences come into play as well. You might like your cigars more humidified, you might like them less humidified, and it might even depend on the actual cigar. So you could be totally up a creek and might have to figure it out on your own, but that's the fun of it. So wipe your humidor down, seal it for 24 hours, monitor and measure the humidity levels inside before you put your cigars in there, and then test, measure, and test to make sure you're getting the right temperatures and right levels of humidity in your humidor as well. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below. If you want to check out the Boveda Butler or the Humicare humidification systems, I'll have links in the descriptions below. If you have any questions, comments, let me know and I'll be happy to help. Again, I'm Ellery Wells from CigarScore.com. The best place to find and rate where you can smoke cigars. So if you're looking for a place to enjoy your cigars today, go to CigarScore.com and hit the Find Near Me button. Happy smoking. We'll see you next time. Do you need protecting? YouTube sure seems to think so. After banning over 200 of our videos, they finally deleted our channel to protect their community. So at this point in the video, you can't find any more of this content on YouTube, but you can find the rest of this video linked in the description, or you can find it over on our Rumble channel, also linked below, and you can just search for the video and finish it there. But we can't show you anymore. We can't tell you any more about this cigar or where you can get it. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to our new channel, click the link in the video description, or click the link right over my shoulder to visit our channel over on Rumble. Thanks for watching. I'm Ellery Wells from CigarScore.com, the best place to find and rate where to smoke cigars. CigarScore.com does not sell cigars. Have an amazing day, and as always, happy smoking.